Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've got something interesting in this bag here today, and this is from Popov Leather. I'm going to be making my own leather cover and a leather wallet. There are two things in here. I'm going to sort them out first. So we have two leather products here. They're both DIY kits. This is the Popov Leather DIY card holder kit, and this is the DIY Field Notes cover kit. Popov Leather is a company based in BC, Canada. As you may have seen in my channel, I do like leather covers and I do like collecting leather items. So I wanted to do something a little bit more hands-on instead of just buying my own leather cover. I don't know whether it'll work out. I don't know whether I will like it because I'm a complete novice in this. I just was kind of wanted to see whether I could try it on my own, but not starting from scratch, wherein I buy my own leather, buy my own tools, punch my own holes, everything like that. This is great because it comes with everything. All you need to do is kind of sew it. You need scissors, you need glue, and then you follow the instructions, and then you should have something that should be good. Now this Field Notes leather cover here is in the Dublin English tan leather. So it's made by Horween. So you can see, look at that. It's a kind of vegetable tan leather, I think, or combo. But it's got a very nice pull up like that, where the color lightens when you press on it. And it came with these pockets. So you got a card slip pocket here and a card pocket here. So you're supposed to sew them and then sand them and burnish the edges. That's the way it goes. And they came with a Field Notes book so that you can slide it into the cover, close it, and use it as a cover. Now the Field Notes size is a little bit small for me. I tend to use, if I use anything for a notebook, anything A6 or bigger. Right now I'm in a B6, so this is a little bit smaller. This is a leather card holder. The leather on this is a different one. This is also by the Horween Leather Company, and it is their Chrome XL color, and it's in the color Driftwood. So let's just compare the two. This one is more, I would say this one is more soft, and this one is more smooth. I really cannot describe it, but I kind of like both leathers. I do kind of prefer the English or the Dublin English tan leather more than this Chrome XL leather. But this is beautiful color too. And I think this will be durable as a leather card wallet holder. Let me check if it has a pull-up quality. Yep, it has a pull-up quality. So let me go over the things that come with the DIY kits, just in case you're curious. For the card holder, it comes labeled like that in a plastic bag. You get to choose the thread that you sew it with. So I chose here brown. This is a brown leather, so it kind of matches with the brown, the driftwood color of this card wallet. Comes with 2 needles, which you have to use. You're sewing using the saddle stitch method. And then a burnishing square or burnishing rectangle and some sandpaper. Then there is this Popov Leather balm. So there are 2 here because there's 1 each. So this is, when I watch the instructions, they have a YouTube channel and they have written instructions, so I can follow along as I'm doing this. They say that this is sealed. I won't open it now, but it looks like a generous amount of leather. It's used to burnish the sides of the leather, but it can also use to condition the leather. and so I have two. There's a lot of it, so I can figure that it's a good idea for me to also use it to condition my other leathers. So that I like that aspect as well. So I'll put this all back. Now this is the field notes. I'm not gonna take all of them out. I think they're going to be all the same contents, except for the color of the thread. For the English tan Dublin, this is in the cream leather thread. The thread is very waxy, which is good for leather work, I believe. Well, it has now been a couple of days, and as you can see, I've finished both of these projects. I did take photos along the way, so I will be adding this onto the screen somewhere as I discuss this. But first, let me just show you the finished products first. This one is the Field Notes leather cover, the front here, and the back. Let me open it up like this. Since I've last filmed, this cover has picked up a couple of scratches along the way. You can see there's a very big scratch here and then a tiny scratch here. Both of these I made by myself. I was afraid that when I was doing the sewing, the needle would scratch the leather, but that never happened. This is me, maybe my fingernail, I don't know what. Let's turn it around. You can open it. And you have the field notes that came with the kit tucked inside the back pocket. I could technically put it in the front pocket as well, but I feel like this leather cover is a very generous size. Let's say you close it and you look at the top, there's plenty of room for you to put more notebooks. So let's say you had another field notes notebook, you could put it into the front cover, maybe even a third notebook that is about this thinness, and it would still fit closed like that. Here we have the full length front pocket, and then another strip of leather where you can put in business cards or credit cards on each of the two slots here. And the back is just another full length pocket. You could put a pen in this cover and then kind of carry it around like with a pen. And then this is what I mean. This is my Muji pen. It's a typical gel pen size. If I put it onto the cover like this, let me move this out of the way. I have to put it on top of the field notes like this. If I close it like this, and then look at it from the top, you can see the pen here is protected by the leather cover, and there's lots of space. If you were to put another notebook in here or bulk it up even more, then I don't think that would work. But if it was just one notebook, you could get away with putting a pen there. I did think about using the clip on this pen to clip it to the side of the field notes, and that would work too, but then this sticks out. Next, we move on to the card holder. This one I did after this one. Even though this one had more steps and it took longer, I thought that this one might be harder just because you have two strips of leather and you fold both of them into two or in half, and then you have to sew all of those layers of leather together, which is 4 layers of leather. And I thought that one might be harder, and even just to line up all of the holes here to make sure that I could sew through all of those layers. And it turned out to work fine, maybe because I was used to it or I figured out the process when I was doing this. But I didn't have to worry so much. Here is the back and the front. So you could put in some cards here. I did take out some cards just to see how much would fit. But let me put those in here. You can see it fits. It sticks out a little bit at the top. There are 5 cards in here total. Then you could also put another card along the side, or you could put cash. So here is another card, and then it's quite a tight fit now because there's a lot of cards in here, but you could put one here and then presumably one in the back. Now you can see once I started stuffing this, you could see the pull-up starting to form on the leather. This is a pull-up leather, so it becomes lighter. And same here. Now you can see the outline of the card when I put it in here. Same as when I put these in here. But I did notice that even if it's a pull-up leather, the color can go away, or it can return to its normal color. So let me take everything out again. You kind of rub it a little bit, and it looks pretty much the same as before. And same here. It used to have a white outline, now you can't really see it. So I think over time, that white line pull-up quality there might stay permanently, especially if you stuff the wallet or the card holder. But for now, it looks like this. I'm going to put these to the side like this, and then I'm going to put the pictures or the photos on this side, and then hopefully you can follow along like that. Popov Leather has a video with instructions, so visual instructions as well as written instructions in a PDF. I decided to just watch the video. It's very informative, and I watched it several times in the background as I was doing this. It took me maybe 2 or 3 times longer for me to do it as a beginner than it took for them to do it. They also say that once you learn how to do it, it becomes faster. You get more accustomed to it. You build that muscle memory. And I found that to be the case. So by the time I got to the card wallet, it was a little bit faster to do. The first step that I had to do was gluing. The leather came pre-punched with holes, so I had to make sure when I was gluing it that I had to line up those holes so that I would be able to sew them together. They recommend you use craft glue, like Elmer's craft glue, just because that's the most readily available. And I decided instead of using the Elmer's craft glue, I would use the one that I have, which is this kind of Japanese brand glue. It's the same pretty much as the Elmer's craft glue because it's white, or it comes out white, and then it dries clear. I applied this to all of the edges of the leather that I wanted to sew together. I found that by using this glue, maybe the opening of this glue was a little bit too big. So when I directly applied the glue to the edges of the leather as I was doing that, I used too much glue. I squeezed too much out. I had to use my finger and kind of wipe it away, making sure that it didn't get into the holes where I was going to sew through. And if you ever put too much glue on when you're gluing 2 things together, the glue will start coming out at the sides. And Popov Leather called it a glue sandwich. Another point about the gluing process was, especially for this Field Notes cover, you have to glue down one side here and then one side here. Now, when Popov Leather did the video, they applied the glue pretty fast. I tried to do that, and I found that by the time I had applied the glue on this side, on the cover and the pocket, the glue on this side had dried already. So what I would say is, if I were doing it again, I would just do one side at a time. It might have also been the glue that I was using. Next thing I wanted to mention on the gluing stage is you have to make sure that you're lining up the holes correctly. I found it to be pretty easy to line them up, but I was confused a little bit. When I was trying to line up those holes that I could sew through, I saw that there was an extra hole on the cover that wasn't on the pocket. Now, at the time, it didn't make sense to me why that would happen. I was thinking maybe I didn't line it up properly, because why is there an extra hole? The reason is you have that extra hole because you want to sew the pocket to the cover, and that's where that extra hole comes in. I don't know why I missed that before. Maybe I'll show you here just to make it clear. There's an extra hole there a little bit, and that brings me to the stitching portion. First, let me just talk about the stitching or the thread that they used. What I was glad to see was The thread, here's the remainder of the thread. You can see that they included an extra length of thread. So if I had messed up this side somehow, I could have used this one as a backup. Next thing I wanted to mention about the thread is it's a wide thread. Quite thicker than I normally see when I buy pre-made leather covers. So I will get out another example for you. This one here is a leather folio I got from another maker, but just to show you the contrast, they used stitching here with a different thread, and I believe this one is machine sewn rather than hand sewn. This thread here is a lot thinner than this one. This one stands out a little more, and this one, I'm not saying that because the thread is thinner that makes it worse quality or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. It's just a difference in the appearance. It does look different. This one, the thread stands out more and it's more bold, especially because I used a cream thread instead of, let's say, a brown thread like I did for the wallet card holder. I think that maybe using such a thick thread made it easier to work with because I could see when I was making a mistake. When I was following along with the video by Popov Leather, they didn't do a close-up of the stitching. It was kind of from a distance. I would have liked to see a close-up of the stitching, especially at the part where you start stitching and where you end the stitching, just to know, which holes that you put the needle through from which side, because you have to pay attention to the back side and the front side. As in terms of lining it up, I think it all lined up pretty well, except for this part. I think that might have been my fault, but if you look at my stitching, I can see the stitching, the line is not completely straight. It's straight here, and then it kind of goes upwards. So I noticed that very well when I was trying to do the sewing, because I could get my needle through the hole of, let's say, the front cover, but then I had to kind of move it around or wiggle it around to get through to the hole on the pocket. I think that was because of the way that I had lined up the two strips of leather here. So that was my fault. But then once I got it going, everything else kind of lined up. You start from the top and then you go all the way down to the bottom. After you're doing the stitching, you have to kind of end the stitch. You have to do some kind of back stitch, and then you have to burn the edges of the thread so that the thread won't unravel. For the back stitching part, again, I would have appreciated seeing a close-up of exactly how they were doing the back stitching, because it's harder for me to really see exactly how they're back stitching on that video. But I mean, I was able to figure it out. I just kind of had to listen to what they were saying instead of looking at what they were saying to figure out how to do the back stitch. And so I did that. As for the burning the thread, I was just a little bit nervous because I didn't know if I was going to burn the leather or not. You can see my work here. Let me bring a close-up. I left too much excess thread. So when I burned it, it did burn down, but now it's kind of sticking out a little bit. And you can see that the tips of the thread, the cream colored thread, is a little bit black now. On this side pocket here, you can see that where I've ended the stitch, this one, I cut it a little bit closer to the leather, and I think this one turned out much better than the first one. Then for this card wallet holder, this is how the back stitching looks. Here is where I ended the sewing. Now this one, I feel like I did burn the leather a little bit because there's a little bit of a dark spot above here. But in real life, that dark spot is not really that noticeable. The last step in this process was to burnish the edges. For that, they gave us a piece of sandpaper and then a burnishing edge or burnishing square, which is another strip of leather, and also the Popov Leather balm. First I had to sand the edges like that, and then apply the balm on the edges and use the square last of all. Now this part was fun. For the sanding, I think that was the most important part for me because I had to sand away some of that dried glue from that glue sandwich I was talking about earlier. It did get in the way, and maybe I didn't clean it out before it had dried, so I had to sand a little bit more just to get rid of that excess glue. I think it turned out okay. And then this one, I'm not sure. Maybe it's because there's so many layers, but you can kind of see the different layers here. Whereas with that one, it was a little bit less obvious. And it might have been some like glue residue, which is showing up. But here's what it looks like. Now the balm is pretty nice. I only used the one of each here for both leather projects. I didn't even need to use the extra one. And so this balm here, you can see how much there's left. I could use this to moisturize my other leather covers, and I could use to re-burnish some of my other leather covers, which is something I want to do as well. That was the whole process from start to finish. I hope that you got something out of this video. I certainly had a lot of fun doing this. It might have caused me a bit of stress when I was figuring out, oh, did I burn that piece of leather? I did learn a lot, including how much kind of work it takes to sew and glue and make sure everything lines up. And that was only part of the process. The other part, the hard part, I feel like, is punching those holes and making sure they line up, and then cutting the leather to make sure they all line up too. I would do this again. I would get something from them again. The only thing is I don't know what I would get. They do have some more extra DIY projects too. Some of those were added even after I bought these two. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful if you wanted to go the do-it-yourself route like I did. If you have any questions or if you have any comments on what I could have done better, please let me know. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.